Okay, it's deciding time. Welcome to the VentureBeat Decides podcast, your weekly source for guys taking video games too seriously. I'm your host, Jeffrey Grubb. With me is Michael Minotti
That's me.
and Dean Takahashi.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about the future of the Nintendo Switch. We're going to decide it because it's GamesBeat Decides. I don't know what that means, though, in this case. Thanks for joining us, everybody. You can get more of us on GamesBeat.com. Email the podcast at gamespluspodcast@venturebeat.com. That's the plus sign. If you like what you're listening to, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. We're on Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play. Let's see. Oh, yeah, when you're on iTunes, leave us a review. Other than that, that's the spiel part. Nintendo just did its one night, one morning Switch reveal, big spiel kind of thing of its own. What'd you guys think?
Oh, Mike.
I defer to Dean.
Dean, what'd you think?
Okay. Well, I think that they had some more interesting surprises that came out. There's some kind of positive confirmations of things we kind of already knew, like there is a touchscreen on it, and it's region free. It's not region locked, and the controllers have motion sensors in them and an IR camera that enable some more of the kind of very social gameplay that the Wii and the Wii U had. So they hadn't really, you kind of had a clue if you watched the videos closely, I guess, but they put a lot more emphasis on what kind of innovative games they could make.
Yeah, well, let's recap what it is, though, because just in case someone hasn't, been listening so far, hasn't kept up, this is the first time they're hearing about it for some reason. So this is Nintendo's new console. It's also their new handheld. They are combining those two elements of what they've done in the past into one system here. I would say it is a handheld that you connect to a TV and not a console that you take with you on the go. I think it leans more handheld, and I think Nintendo kind of... okay, well, you may disagree, but we'll get in that in a little bit.
I think that's a fair description because it's like the opposite of the Wii U, right?
It's the inverse, almost.
The Wii U had a processor in a home console, and then it had a accessory tablet that
was
had
wireless
computing power in it. And this time the computing power is all in the tablet. You can take that with you, and it's not tethered to a home machine.
And now that we learned that in the trailer a few weeks ago, a couple months ago now, actually. We learned a lot more, but some more basic details. $300, comes out March 3rd, so less than 50 days. Zelda will debut with it on March 3rd, which seems like the big game that they are positioning right up front, along with a couple motion control games. Motion controls are back. Dean mentioned that. And this was kind of... that, like Dean, you said, this is kind of what they showed here in a big way, that this system isn't just something that you plug into your TV and take on the go. It also has these party game features where you're looking at each other, you're using these the Joy-Cons that come off the side of the system in different ways. Let's start there, kind of maybe get that out of the way. What do you guys think about motion controls coming back in terms of the Nintendo Switch?
I was surprised that there was such a focus on that, especially early on. There's this bit kind of early on the conference. I was like, this is beginning to feel like a Wii era, like Nintendo event, and it's just strange because they already did this kind of look. It has motion controls still too with the Wii U, right? Where it still used the Wii motion controllers, and I was like, see, look, you can still do all that stuff, and kind of ultimately nobody really wanted to anymore, right? There's part of me that just worries that happened with the Wii, and it was a success, and it attracted a lot of players for a bit, and I think people have kind of moved on. I don't really see this whole Nintendo Switch motion aspect really playing out for very long.
Well, go ahead, Dean.
I was saying that with that 1-2 Switch game, they are positioning the players in a different way. Whereas,
this is the big difference here between the Wii and what
with
this
the
is
Wii,
doing.
With the Wii, you were facing the TV, right? And now you're facing each other.
So, you know what this reminds me of? I don't know if you guys have ever played it. I've never played it. It's that J.S. Sebastian Joust game that used PlayStation Move controllers, and it had music playing. And as long as the music was playing, you could move the PlayStation Move, and you were playing with like 8 to 16 other people who all have Move controllers. And then when the music stopped, you had to stand still, and if someone made you move by like messing with you, using their other hand to kind of get in your face, the controller would sense that vibration, and you would lose, and you'd drop out, and then the last person standing won the game. It feels like this system, the way that they're building it, where you're not looking at the TV, you're looking at each other, you're listening to sounds, is built on that concept, and that's how they're separating it from the Wii. And I don't know if that is a winning prospect in the same way the Wii was when it came out. Before we started, and this is the 1-2 Switch game that we're talking about. It's a mini game compilation. Before we started, Mike pointed out that it might be the Nintendo Land of the Nintendo Switch as opposed to the Wii Sports of the Nintendo Switch. I think it'll probably land somewhere in the middle. I see some potential here for this, but I think it's going to be closer to Nintendo Land, personally.
Yeah, I think what they're trying to do is create like a larger play space, right? Or just a way for to come up for way for developers to come up with different kinds of imaginative gameplay, and they're doing that in every way by investing in a lot of different things in this console, except a really high-end processor for graphics. Right? So they're not going into the technological arms race with Microsoft and Sony to get $100 processor in there that really delivers realistic 3D graphics. That's never been Nintendo's strategy, and
but it does seem like it's more powerful than the Wii U.
They're sort of doing everything else.
Yeah, it does seem like it's more powerful than the Wii U, though, which is, I think, how you reported it in the story about how this Tegra is using older architecture. It would still be more powerful than the Wii U. It looks like that panned out because Mario Kart 8, a game that was on the Wii U, it's coming to the Switch in a deluxe version. It still runs at 60 frames per second. Now it runs at 1080p, where at best it ran at 720p on the Wii U.
And even when it's on the tablet, it just goes down to 720p and still 60 frames per second, which I kind of thought was encouraging.
Yeah, that is encouraging.
And the interesting thing is we're having to figure out what these specs are because Nintendo didn't mention any of the specs during its press.
Yeah, and that's not surprising. They don't want to focus on that stuff. They don't want to make a big deal out of it because they know people will pick it apart and take away the wrong thing when they want to be like, hey, look at our games, look at all the things we can do. But I'm not sure if motion controls, if there's anything else we really want to talk about there. I mean, beyond 1-2 Switch, did you guys see anything that was worth talking about? Were there any other motion control
Arms
games?
looks like it could be fun, right? I mean, again, it's another game where it's like that, and this is like already like jumping ahead to where I feel like Wii and Wii U got, where it's like, and you can use it with a regular controller, right? Kind of like with Punch Out. I feel like ultimately people who play will get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but arms, arms you can use a regular controller, and I was like, oh, okay, I might really be into that because it seems like we had a podcast about this, Mike, games we wanted to bring back, and I was like, Punch Out, and this seems like it might be an updated version of Punch Out.
Kind of, yeah.
Close enough, and it has some similar concepts, but it's more complex for sure.
It has some Nintendo charm to it. It doesn't look very complex.
No, but more complex than Punch Out is all I was saying. But
kind of like a rock paper scissors boxing game.
Yes,
a little bit. Well, in a way, a lot of fighting games are where like once blocking, like a lot of that is actually even true in like Street Fighter, going back that far, where a throw beats a block, a block beats a punch.
And this is
whatnot.
Just so people know, this is Arms, which is just a wild punching game that you play with the motion controllers, but you can play with the Gamepad Pro or whatever.
Right.
It looked like Splatoon mixed with a motion control game from the Wii. It has a very similar color scheme, but I think we can move off motion controls because that's going to have to pan out, and we're going to have to see whether that actually hits pay dirt in any way for Nintendo, if people are going to care about that or not. Whether or not the Today Show is going to pick up on that stuff, we won't know for a couple more weeks. What we can decide.
I just say one more thing,
go ahead.
Which is I think the reason that the Wii sold 100 million units and the Wii U sold only 13 million was because it had a way to bring in everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Wii Sports was the title that did that, and it simplified the control to the point where it's more like a remote control and a motion sensor, and everybody knew how to operate it just by watching somebody else play, right? And so it brought in the mainstream, it brought in the masses, brought in non-gamers, and it was a social thing that people talked about with each other, or they played together and they laughed. It was a party instigator, I guess, and so I think they're trying to do the same thing with
I think it's telling that they
Joy-Con controller.
I think it's telling that they aren't giving up on that thing. Where like I think a lot of us
Yeah,
were
it's
looking
so
at it from outside.
surprising.
We're saying, hey, okay, let's all move past it. Everyone else has moved past motion controls. We like Nintendo's going to do it too. Of course, they're going to move past it. They're not going to have motion controls in this thing, and I think it's very telling that they're not willing to give that up because I think they're thinking we have to repeat that success with this system, which I think is I don't know, it kind of makes me worry a little bit.
It's
And
kind
you know,
of it's
the
unlikely.
pricing matches that kind of philosophy. It's not as high as they could have charged for a hardcore game console, right? It's at 300. It is on the high end of what people expected, but it is still kind of within the mass market
Yeah, I think it was what I
a little
expected. I
bit.
think the price is kind of. I think that seems about
It's
right
it's
there.
what I
$3.
expected, but had it been 350, I would have been appalled. I think a little
Yeah.
bit. So and we'll come back to pricing and stuff like that, I'm sure, as we kind of talk about the proposition, the value proposition that Nintendo's trying to make here. But let's get into really the core of what the system is trying to do in terms of who it's trying to reach. And I think Nintendo said this very specifically when they had Miyamoto on their stream today talking about Mario. So they're making a new 3D Mario game. It looks very intense in terms of you are going to be controlling Mario, you're going to be controlling a camera. It's not a 2D Mario game, and it's very different than Super Mario Run. And Miyamoto said that because they have Super Mario Run and they have Super Mario Maker, these games where anyone can play, anyone can pick it up and start and play with one hand if you're on iPhone, that they feel more comfortable making a complicated 3D Mario game in terms of Super Mario Odyssey, which is what it's called. And
Yeah,
I think it's a definition of the entire system as a whole at this point,
Yeah,
is that they're going to feel more
because
comfortable
we've seen
about
with Mario games where they kind of been going away from this the sandbox kind of levels and trying to make it a bit more linear to try and make it more accessible. Traditionally, the 3D Mario games have not sold as well as the 2D Mario games, just because it's not because one's better than the other. It's just more people can understand the 2D thing. And I like that they can say, you know what, it's fine. We're going to make one that will really appeal to the people who like, Mario 64 or what have you.
And I got to say, I almost never had any hope that they would fully return to that kind of
Right.
Mario game. I think in my heart, I was always thinking, they make more money with the 2D Mario games. They're probably less expensive to make. Super Mario 3D World was probably the closest they ever got to combining the simplicity of 2D in a 3D game. So why wouldn't they just keep going down that path? I never thought they would be like, we're going to swing back and start, moving this pendulum back the other way and saying it's okay to make a complex Mario game. I just that wasn't in the cards. I wasn't even considering it. So I never it would like had they not done it, my hopes wouldn't have been crushed because I had no hopes for this. And now that they're doing it, I'm like, wow, what? I think this says something very specific about what Nintendo's trying to do with the Switch, and it's
Well,
to reach a core
it
gaming
feels like
audience.
they did step up from the Wii U in enabling open world games more, and this kind of Mario game seems more like an open world game, and they are getting Skyrim onto the platform as well. So it's almost like they're welcoming a new category of games that never really tried to be on previous Nintendo consoles because just the worlds. I mean, Zelda is also quite good. So, in some ways, they're bringing in a whole category of games. Not I'm not sure whether there's something in the hardware that makes this run these kinds of games better, or they're just making a bigger attempt to bring these in.
I think some of that might be almost coincidental, just like a nature of, like that philosophy behind Mario getting Skyrim. Because I mean, there was nothing really limiting per se about the Wii U when it came to open world games. Like it could have happened. I mean, there were some examples like with the Lego stuff and why. Plus, Zelda is also coming out on that system still, which is weird to think about, but it's happening.
Right. I it's coincidence, but I think Nintendo also recognizes the need for a game like Skyrim to be successful on the Switch, and if it's going to be successful with the audience it seems like it wants to reach. Whether that means they've done something specific with the hardware, I don't know. I would doubt it. I think it's probably more building relationships with companies like Bethesda and saying, hey, please, we want the system to be associated with this sort of game, so please do it. And I don't know how open world Mario is going to be. It seems like it's sandbox, where there's different levels that you go to, and it's more open than maybe some of the previous games, maybe more closer
And
to
it
Sunshine and
seems
Mario
like
64.
this. I mean, this particular feature just might be a matter of DRAM, whether there's enough main memory in the system. So if they've done that, we don't exactly know because they haven't told us what the specs are. But if there's enough main memory in the system, then that's a good thing.
So let's do the release calendar. On March 3rd, when the system comes out, Zelda will launch along with the 1-2 Switch game. A few other things, but not a ton. There's not a ton of release software on launch day. In April, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe will come out on April 28th. Then Nintendo said in the summer it will have Splatoon 2, which looked a lot like Splatoon, almost like an expansion pack, maybe. I mean, it looks very similar. And then in the holiday season, they will have Super Mario Odyssey. I feel like if you're looking at it from a standpoint of Nintendo, this is a Nintendo system for Nintendo games. This is a strong year of releases. I think if you're looking at it from a broader standpoint where you're looking at it as a system to play any kind of game, it seems pretty limited. What are your guys' impressions?
It is so like specifically that launch window, right? Having Zelda in there is great. Obviously, I think that's what everyone's going to go for. But some of that is sort of taken it's a little less special since it's coming out on the Wii U that same day, right? It is kind of a Wii U game also, so you're not feeling like, oh man, I'm getting this incredible Switch experience that I could have actually just bought for a system I already have. Then outside of that, there's not really another big Nintendo game. So like what went to Switch? I'm surprised that even like the Mario Kart 8 thing isn't going to be ready for launch, or even ARMS isn't a launch game. I'm surprised there's not like at least one other thing there.
Right.
And the third party support, it's like it's there. It's nothing super crazy or exciting there. So it's definitely probably on the weaker side of launches. Does that matter all the time? Is kind of the question.
I mean, they're just sort of lucky again that they have a Zelda. Right?
Yeah. Just try to put this all over again.
I think people will be preoccupied with that for a while, but yeah, they say they have 50 games in the works and 80 supporters, I guess, but it's still very light for a launch schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I pre-ordered it. I mean, I think all of you did as well. I think Jason did as well as our managing editor. What would you say if someone came up to you, and this might lead into some of the things that might be negative about the Switch, but what would you say to someone if it was just a regular gamer and they came up to you and said, what should I do about the Switch? Should I pre-order one right now, or should I wait, or whatever? What would you say to them?
I mean, it still comes down to how much do you like Nintendo. And I know people kind of make that Nintendo game playing machine joke a lot with Nintendo system,
right.
But I think it's okay in a way for people to want a Nintendo system because they like Nintendo a lot, right? I guess I was maybe surprised to see not a whole ton of like they talk about third party support a lot, but you never really see a result of that outside of things that look like they would be kind of digital releases and these kind of more like the fake indie games, like the games that are made by these big third party games, but they kind of look like indie games in a way. Right. It's like you have like a new Bomberman. That's nice, but it's it's Bomberman. You have Street Fighter 2 is coming back. Okay, cool, but it's Street Fighter 2. It's not like they're saying like hey, here's the next Call of Duty.
Yeah, like Sega's not bringing like Yakuza. They're bringing Tetris or Puyo Puyo Tetris,
and they're bringing like Sonic Mania, and that's just cool.
That's exciting, but it illustrates your point of what kind of game they're bringing to the system.
They played up the 8-person multiplayer, but they said so little about some of the other multiplayer things that I have to like wonder again, like if you have cloud gaming technology that's available on the Shield is very much like the Switch. Why don't we have cloud gaming?
Yeah, but even if it doesn't have cloud gaming, do they have cloud saves? Like, I mean, I would hope that it would have cloud saves so that when I take my Switch over to someone's house, I don't have to keep all of my saves stored on this thing that only has 32 gigabytes of built-in data storage, so that I can bring up a save, or they can bring up the save on my system without having to go through a bunch of hoops. They didn't mention a lot of those kinds of things, and it's part of a list of answers that we haven't received from Nintendo about pressing questions. Other things along those lines is how much this online Switch Online service is going to cost.
There's a lot of questions with the online
I,
thing.
I
Yeah.
like I like the cloud gaming angle to it also because it has the potential to bring in a lot of libraries of games that were never intended to run on the Switch.
I mean, it would solve some
Or
problems, but the fact that they
yeah,
didn't mention it at all, I think, is
I mean
a pretty strong
like
sign that
things
it's
like
not going to
backward
happen.
compatibility, right? You don't have backward compatibility, but if you have cloud gaming, it's not so hard to get an old game to run on the new game on the new.
Yeah, but has that solution been working out super well for Sony with PlayStation Now? With
Yeah,
PlayStation
their
3?
pricing
I
has
don't know.
definitely been kind of tough. I think it's very expensive in PlayStation now. It's like
It's
20,
expensive, and I don't
$20 a
know
month.
how well it works unless
Yeah,
you have a really
it
good
works well
internet
enough, but
connection.
it's not working to the point where I just never feel comfortable. Like I never feel like I own any of those games. I'm never like I'm going to go play my
I think the
Uncharted
Shield
copy that
TV
I have.
is probably going to be a more a better example of how that works well. I think
Yeah, but I
Nvidia
mean,
is
but then again, the Switch
investing
is
a
going
lot
to
more in.
sell way better than the Shield television. So it's like yeah, Nintendo, I'm sure, has their reasons for not doing something along those lines, but we'll see. But I think the bigger issue for a lot of people is going to be things like how just the basic internet stuff works. Like for example, they say you're going to be able to pay for this online Switch service, and that will enable you to do stuff like voice chat and online lobbies and friend groups or like parties. But you do it all from a smartphone, and that makes it sound like you can only do voice chat using the smartphone app.
Which is strange to have to use another device to use a feature on another
Yeah.
device that's not even owned by
But
the same company.
they
Yeah.
also didn't say whether there's like a cellular connection inside the device, right? And
No,
so
and I don't.
you know
I think that
they're
probably means
really
there isn't.
I mean, they're advertising this as something you can take with you anywhere and play anywhere where you go. But if you're going to have an online game and you take it with you and you have to be connected to Wi-Fi, then
Yeah, but I mean,
Wi-Fi really just limits the portability
but
of
that
that
brings up one of the
device.
biggest issues with the system is this 2.5 hours to 6 hour battery life. If you put a cell thing in there to play online multiplayer games when you're on the go over 4G or whatever, that's going to be rough on a battery that already seems like it's going to struggle to keep up. So I don't think they're going to do it simply for that main reason. They don't
They're
want to
gonna
have a half-hour battery
gonna
life.
give Mophie a reason to stay in business, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that it's USB-C, so you're totally going to be able to put shells on this thing that are battery packs. That's going to happen. They're going to be everywhere. You're going to see those at GameStop a ton. Do you guys have any concerns about the battery life?
I mean, when I heard that number, it sounded real bad. Then I kind of looked at what the new 3DS did, and the new 3DS was like an hour or a half an hour better than that, really.
Yeah.
So, plus, I'm a suburban gamer, right? So most of when I do portable gaming, it usually means to my bed,
And you
or
could play with this one plugged in, so that you're going to be
right,
fine as long as you
right. So
get a
it's not.
cable
I
or
don't know.
whatever.
It like sounds bad. It's one of those things in an age where like, all the external batteries and even on a plane you now have outlets and stuff like that. I don't think there'll ever be a point where I'm like, oh, I can't play my Switch anymore. It's dead. I don't really see
I
that
think
happening.
they said that Zelda would last for 3 hours
Sounds about right.
on the battery, and
Yes, that seems
yeah,
right.
that's not really impressive.
Yeah,
That's
no,
not
it's not.
impressive.
It's not. Yeah, it's bad, but it seems right for what that 2.5 hours to 6 hour
It's
thing
not
said to me.
surprising.
Right. It's what I was expecting. I was hoping for
And
better.
that I think that goes back to again, things they didn't tell us, like this is probably a Maxwell based NVIDIA
I think
driver
that
chip in
seems
there,
pretty obvious at this point.
and yeah, it's they're it's not very high end as far as processing capability, and it's not that power efficient either. So 3 to 6 hour battery life is probably not a surprise.
Yeah.
What we get.
Let's see here. Some of the other things going back to the online service. So it's going to be free for the first couple of months, and then in the fall they are going to begin charging for it. Like I said, they didn't say how much, but when you pay for it, what you get is online play. It's very similar to PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live Gold. You get online multiplayer, you get all those other features, but then you also get a free monthly download. Now, this free monthly download sounds pretty exciting. It's either an NES game or a Super NES game, and Nintendo says it's going to add online multiplayer features to these games. Super NES in particular, I think the way it read to me is it was going to be both NES and SNES, But so far, it's only been confirmed that SNES games will get this online multiplayer that will work on the Switch. That's very cool. However, after that month ends where the game is part of this promotion, you don't get to keep it. That is very different from the way PlayStation Plus works and Xbox Live Gold works, where they take the games, where you keep the games as long as you keep an active subscription. And I just think I don't get this decision at all. Do you guys have any thoughts on it?
It seems like a weird decision made in a vacuum where Xbox Live Gold and PlayStation Plus don't exist. It's just because, I mean, you're already, personally, I would rather have an NES or SNES game.
Yeah, same here, but the optics aren't good.
It's less of a value, monetarily. And now you're on top of that saying you can only have it for a month. Like, can they really not just give that away to people? One like NES and SNES game a month. That just seems like
they seem like a dragon sitting on their hoard.
Thing for them to do.
Yeah,
to like add value and to get some goodwill. And like what they're doing now, it's going to probably be worse than if they did nothing. Because now people are going to get mad about that 1 month time limit.
They seem like.
Now,
go ahead, Dean.
You're bringing up things that they should give away for free. And
well, you're paying for
charge so much for. Then now we should bring up accessories. I mean, I think these accessories are outrageously high price.
We'll get in that. Hang on, I just want a couple more things about the games here. Is that like it kind of defeats the whole purpose of why Sony and Microsoft do this. Why you would give games away, because you want people to feel like, oh, I can't let my subscription to PlayStation Plus lapse. I'm going to lose access to the 15 games I've collected over the last year. So even if I'm not playing those games, even if I'm not playing online multiplayer, I still re-up and resubscribe to both PS Plus and Xbox Live Gold. Unless I see a good game on the Nintendo service, or unless I'm playing an active online multiplayer game, I'm not going to subscribe each month to the Nintendo service. I'll cancel it and I'll come back when I need it. I do like the idea that, okay, for that 1 month, everyone's going to be playing these one Super Nintendo or NES games, so we'll have this community built up around them. I think that's great, but it would happen whether people got to keep them or not. So right. I just think this is just a baffling decision.
It's very strange. Plus, they're very short on, again, the details of this thing. Like, if they're going to start, it's fine to charge for service that's going to be as good. I think it's Xbox Live, but we're kind of skeptical of that, right?
Right. I mean, that's they're going to give us the free couple of months, so we'll at least get an idea of what it's like.
I guess so.
But I think they implied that the free monthly game and stuff won't start until the fall. So
I hope that this is a case of there's enough time where they can see why this is just a stupid thing to do. But
we'll see. Reverse it before it even gets to that point. But
we'll see.
We'll see. So Dean, you brought up the expensive accessories. So the system itself is $300, which I think a lot of us expected. What we didn't expect is that the Pro controller would cost $70 or $80. How much is it? Dean, do you have it?
Let me look it up here in a second.
I think I'm pretty sure that if you want an extra set of the Joy-Cons, which are the two slide-on controllers that connect to the side of the system and then are the motion controllers, I think a set of two of those is $80. Right. That is significantly more expensive than I think a lot of people are expecting.
You want the mini Joy-Con, each one of those is $50.
Yeah, so if you get them by themselves, they're $50 each. That's pretty nuts. And then I think the Pro controller is $70.
And the power supply, which is really not much more than a power supply charger, is $90.
Yikes! They're going Apple on us. That's what they want. They want to be Apple, and they're like, we could charge a premium for our stuff.
Your full second controller, your Joy-Con controller with the charging grip, that's $110. And then, I guess their comeback is like, well, two people can actually play on this thing from the very start.
Yeah.
So it's like we've included two controllers in where most people only can include one. But those are mini controllers.
Yeah, and those controllers are very last resort.
Specific.
Yeah, I would only use those controllers if I'm desperate to play a multiplayer game, I guess, with someone over. I mean, I'll do the motion control games, but beyond that, I mean, I'm never going to use just one of those Joy-Cons to play a game by myself.
Pro controller is $70.
$70, okay. That's so that's $10 more expensive, right, than an Xbox One controller or a DualShock 4. It seems out of whack.
And also, again, we have a $300 device here, and you only get 32 gigabytes of storage.
Yeah. And now, in fairness, they will let you use SD cards, which are very inexpensive relative to a
Yeah,
hard
and you can
drive.
buy those SD cards too. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, man.
Yeah, it's not like the PlayStation Vita, which had very expensive storage options.
I'm
And
not sure how much the micro SD cards
you can get like a 32 gigabyte one for $10. So there's 256 gigabytes is how much the Switch can support, and those are expensive still, but they're coming down in price. So that's something. But yeah, only having 32 gigabytes built in, that I guess that's another kind of thing I'm concerned about.
It's like these are hidden costs, though, right?
Yeah,
You know,
and Zelda's going to be what, like 15 gigabytes probably, maybe 8 if it's they really compact it. That's going to take up a good chunk of the built-in storage, and then yeah, you're going to have to start getting into SD cards, and that's going to be like a pain in the butt for a lot of people, especially kids. But again, they did this with the 3DS, so people are used to it. Let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anything. Any other like big stories that came out of this? Did you
Yeah,
guys?
it's weird because like just doing this, it's like there is like all this really skeptical and like confusing and I don't know stuff, but it's just like at the end of the day, and I almost feel like a little childish about, but just seeing like Mario and
Yeah.
Zelda, right? And Zelda's a game we knew about for a while, and it's coming out on the Wii U, but just as far as just like good game trailers go, that Zelda trailer they showed off is like one for the ages. Just
It
in
was
terms of,
very
like,
good.
it was a good trailer.
Yeah, they really nailed that.
Oh my gosh.
It was the music, it was the voice acting, it was the way everything looked. That game looks incredible, and I think if it didn't have that, I wouldn't be maybe lining up to get one. But having that
Smart
on
to save that for the end.
yeah, it was having that on the Switch on day one gives me a good reason to own one of those systems. I love the idea of playing it on my TV and then taking the system with me to bed, or if I'm no matter what I'm doing, having it with me.
But Jeff, you could just take your Wii U tablet controller to bed.
Yeah.
If you're within range.
Yeah, and I'm never within range. The only part of my house that's within range for the Wii U controller is where I sit to watch TV, which is it's like this irony that I really actually makes me hate the Wii U at times, even though I love the system's games. But yeah. But Mike, I think that kind of actually brings up a point I did want to talk about. There are some negative things about this system. There are questions. But overall, I'm feeling that this is a positive for Nintendo. I think they delivered on a lot of the things they needed to deliver. The things that we kind of are always skeptical about, third-party support, storage for games, online, things like that. Yeah, those are still questions. But the things that I knew that they had to do, show me a good Zelda, show me a system that I can understand how it works, and how I'm going to be able to play Nintendo games on it. They did that, and I'm feeling pretty positive about this. And I think overall most people are as well, even if there are plenty of reasons to be skeptical, and there are plenty of skeptics.
Yeah. So, and kind of the question I do have though is this really not going to be a third place console still? Is this really going to, outside of launch, maybe like regularly outsell the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 on a monthly basis? And it's kind of hard to see that, and it's kind of, I don't know, for some reason I almost have a hard time buying into that still.
So, I think if going off of that presentation, I think you have a good point. But once they do the Nintendo Direct that says, "Hey, look, here's the next Pokemon game, and it's coming out on the Nintendo Switch."
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I think we saw what happened last year with the 3DS. If people aren't aware, the 3DS was on a decline. It wasn't selling as well. Pokemon Go came out, and the 3DS started selling better and better and better. And there was a couple months where it was the top selling system throughout the summer and then into the fall. And it was a huge boost. And then the Pokemon games for the 3DS, the new ones, what are they? X and Y, not X and Y. What are they?
Sun and Moon.
Sun and Moon. Those came out, and people went nuts, and the system sold really well, and they were the fastest selling games of all time for Nintendo. So I think that once they bring in that fold, that group of people, that group of gamers, that is when it closes the loop, and this is the system that can compete with those others.
I think they may have created a problem for themselves, though, in the portable space, where like if you buy one of these now, do you have any reason to buy a 3DS anymore?
No, but
we're already looking at the 3DS, and 3DS is like what, 60 million versus 150 million for the DS.
The next Pokemon games in 2017 will come out
fast.
on 3DS as if they come out on Switch, they'll also come out on 3DS, no doubt. But the 3DS is on the way out, clearly.
Yeah, 3DS is on the way. I mean, the thing came out in
So
2011. It's
then
an
if
old
you're
system.
Nintendo, you're looking at this like maybe a little more realistically, but you're looking at a time when you had 100 million Wii sold and 150 million 3D or DSs sold, and you're going to this age where you're just coming off of 13 million Wii U sold. Is it a victory for you to sell 20 million of these?
It's not. No.
I mean,
No, it's got to do better
it's
than
not,
that. But
right?
I think 100 million is maybe asking much. And even if it did as well as the 3DS, I know 3DS kind of paled in comparison to the DS, but definitely, I think it sold pretty well. I think it made Nintendo a lot of money.
It's got to go closer to the 3DS than the Wii U, obviously, or
Obviously.
closer to the 3DS than the GameCube, even. But I think the potential's there, and if they can deliver on this Mario game coming out this holiday, and then in 2018 they're like, here is Pokemon, here are all these other series that you've been waiting for, and they look better than ever because they're on an HD console, that'll have a huge impact.
Man, it's just so weird to me looking at that the GameCube sold 22 million units, the Xbox 24 million, the PlayStation 2 153. Like I know that like the PlayStation 2 won, but it's like hard to believe that was that lopsided.
Yeah, when you go back in time and you like look at those systems side by side, it doesn't register like that's how it should have played out. I think a lot of it was just perception at the time. A lot of kids that grew up on gaming were getting a little bit older, so they went with the system that was perceived as being for older people and kind of missed out on a lot of great GameCube games.
Right.
But
that's just bad for me.
yeah, but for the Switch, it has a lot of potential. I don't think it's going to do the Wii, even with the motion controls. Even if they do kind of hit in a best case scenario with those motion controls, I don't think it's going to be as good as the Wii. So yeah, I just think come out with Pokemon next year and they'll be fine. I think it'll do.
Yeah, I think a bunch of the analysts that I pinged as well were not really glowing as far as just their reaction to it.
Yeah.
Higher price. They brought up a lot of these other flaws. One of them was saying, "Oh, they might sell 4 million this year." 4 million is not going to get them on a
4 million's bad
for the Wii.
I think that's way off base though. I think it's gonna based on the response. I think it's probably going to sell 4 million like in the first 6 months, if not the first quarter, is what it seemed like. Just based on the way people are talking about this system relative to the Wii U. I mean, unless they meant like this year, as in like fiscal year ending March 30th. In that case, 4 million I think is totally reasonable. But there's kind of no way. I just think people are hungry for a Nintendo system. They still love Zelda. They still love Mario. They still love Pikachu. So the question is whether it's going to be closer to the GameCube or the 3DS. I think that's kind of where we're kind of falling now at this point.
I'm just like depressed looking at these GameCube numbers now. There's a system with just so many good games, and no one bought it. So I don't know. Maybe having good Nintendo games isn't enough, but there was a perception at that time that Nintendo was kind of lame, right?
Yeah, that was
Nintendo's kind of like it has changed, right?
It's cool to be lame. It's cool to like still be playing Pokemon.
It's ironic. It's ironic now. Being lame is awesome.
But I think they've sort of reconfigured themselves in a way to be profitable, kind of no matter what happens. And, that's probably the good thing about where they are now. I think they can live if it is not a gigantic seller.
Yeah, and I think the mobile games are going to frame up to do something that's a little bit more focused on the core gamer that would buy a Nintendo system. They're like, we can make Super Mario Run, we can live off that in a way and get that casual audience that we're so desperate for. And then with our core system, there is the potential to just kind of make something that is, far more for the people that prefer 3D Marios to 2D Marios.
And they're going off into theme parks as well.
There's
different ways that they're figuring out how to make more money. And mobile will help them to sort of replenish their war chest whenever they need it, I guess.
Yeah. Anything else, guys? I feel like we've kind of tapped it.
But I guess the conclusion then is, if you're Nintendo, maybe your strategy is to live profitably in third place.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're right that they built themselves in a way that they have to do that, or they can do that. But I think they clearly want to be, like Mike says, at least a couple of months of the year outside the Xbox One and or the PlayStation 4. I think that's what they want. But in the meantime, you guys can't see this, but in the video, I just put that that milking GIF of them playing that motion control game, and they're just going, and it's still pretty obscene.
I mean, I do think that at least they have really tried to run with the things that that could potentially get them into something more viral again. Right? They're trying with the social dueling games, the motion controllers, the things like Zelda. They're trying to attack on every front that will, possibly collectively lift them up above where the bad days of the Wii U. Right? So.
Yeah, I think we can all agree it's going to do better than Wii U. Beyond that, who knows? All right, guys.
It would be something if it didn't.
Yeah, that would be really impressive. Actually, I wouldn't be like, what the hell happened here? Just like, this is impressive that you could screw up that bad. All right, I think that's going to do it. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks for listening. I turned on the cast halfway through, so the audio on the back half should be better than the audio on the first half, but whatever. I apologize for that. We'll do better next week. In the meantime, Mike, tell everyone where they can find you on the internet.
We'll do better, as if it was my fault. You can find me all over the place. I'm everywhere now. Every site you go, you're going to see my face from now on, and that's the way it's going to be, and I hope you like it.
Pornhub, that's where I find you, Mike.
All right. I'm Tokoto on Twitter.
And then Dean, how about you? Where can people find you?
I'm Dean Tech on Twitter.
And I'm Jeff Grubb on Twitter, and you can get me on YouTube every once in a while. I post videos, youtube.com/Jeffrey Grubb. And as always, you can get more of us on GamesBeat.com and email us, GamesPlusPodcast.
That's not what my thing says your name on Twitter is.
Okay, well, let me see. I actually didn't have it right in front of my face, so it moved down to the second page. On Twitter, I'm Jeff Grubb, Poop Butt, Fart, McFarties, P-Man, CGI Face, Bad Dad, Odyssey. I'd play that game. I'd play that. And I'm going to close this rundown because I don't want to see that no more. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll get you next week.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.